Good afternoon. I will call to order the January 23rd meeting of the Minneapolis City Planning Commission. My name is Matt Brown. I serve as president of the commission. I'm joined today by Commissioners Kronzer, Magrino, Slack, Sweezy, Lukey-Pierre, Vreeland, and Rockwell. Our first item of business today is to approve the actions from the January 9th meeting. May I have a motion to approve those actions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. And that motion carries. Our next item of business is to sort the agenda. You can find hard copies of the agenda in the hallway. We'll determine which items we will discuss today and which items will be on consent. So starting at the top of the agenda, item number 1 is the 1710 RLS at 1710 West Lake Street. That is a registered land survey. Is anyone wishing to speak in opposition to or modify the staff recommendation on item 1? Seeing no one, we'll put item 1 on consent. Item 2 is a right-of-way vacation in the vicinity of East 29th Street and 21st Avenue South. That item has been withdrawn, so if anyone happened to be here for that item, the applicant has withdrawn it. Item 3 is the 4700 Cedar retail addition and renovation at 4700 through 4714 Cedar Avenue South. That's a site plan review, and the applicant has requested that we continue that application to the February 6th meeting. So if anyone is here for item 3, that will be considered on February 6th. We have continued that a few times now. Item 4 is the holiday dynamic sign at 1617 Broadway Street Northeast and 1209 Ulysses Street Northeast. That is a conditional use permit and variance for a dynamic sign. Is anyone wishing to speak in opposition to or modify the staff recommendation on item 4? Seeing no one, we'll put item 4 on consent. Item 5 is the Uptown Mixed Use Development at 3543 Hennepin Avenue. A few applications for a mixed use building there. We'll discuss item 5. Is anyone wishing to speak on item 5? Okay, we will discuss that. And item 6 is the Village Market at 2301 Elliott Avenue, 912 East 24th Street, 2218 10th Avenue South, and 2320 10th Avenue South, an expansion of nonconforming use and site plan review there. We'll also discuss item 6, and is anyone wishing to speak on item 6? Okay, so we have some people here. We will discuss that as well. So our agenda as amended is as follows. Items 1 and 4 will be on consent. We will discuss items 5 and 6. Item 3 will be continued to February 6th. And item 2 has been withdrawn. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? And that motion carries. Next, we can move on to our Committee of the Whole consent agenda. And Vice President Slack, do you have an update from our January 12th meeting?
Thank you, President Brown. We considered 7 items at the Committee of the Whole. The first item was the appointments to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and the recommended motion was to approve the following appointments to the Zoning Board of Adjustment for terms to expire December 31st, 2019, and the individuals were Sean Cahill, John Finlinson, and Dan Ojiba. Hopefully I pronounced that last name right. The remaining 6 items were all land sales, so I'll just read through those and then provide the recommended motion. The first is a land sale and acquisition, East Side Storage and Maintenance Facility. Item number 3 was a land sale for 205 Park Avenue South. Item number 4 was a land sale for 3329 Nicollet Avenue. Item number 5 was a series of land sales, 2542 12th Avenue South, 2436 13th Avenue South, 2600 17th Avenue South, 2604 17th Avenue South, 2921 18th Avenue South, and 3321 25th Avenue South. Item number 6 was another series of land sales, 1105 28th Street East and 1109 28th Street East. And the last item was a land sale for 3823 Bryant Avenue North. For those 6 items, items essentially 2 through 7, the recommended motion was to approve the staff report that the items were consistent with the Minneapolis Plan for Sustainable Growth.
All right, and I will take that as a motion to find those items consistent with the comprehensive plan. Is there a second? And Mr. Wittenberg, you had a comment about one of those land sales, item 4 at 3329 Nicollet Avenue.
Yes, Commissioners, for item number 4, as you'll recall, The land sale form had indicated two potential projects associated with that land sale. One of them was a 12-unit building, and I believe the other was a 34-unit building. It was actually staff's intent to only include the 12-unit building. That's the staff recommended project associated with that land sale. So the intent was to only include that project, and I would recommend that, given those circumstances, that the commission actually remove the added comment related to the higher density project, since it generally wasn't going to be part of the land sale recommendation.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to remove that comment related to the second proposal? We have a motion and a second. We can do a voice vote on that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. And then let's go back to our original motion to approve the committee of the whole consent agenda, finding that those several items are consistent with the comprehensive plan. All in favor?
Aye.
And that motion carries. Next, we have one action item today, and that is the LNH station development at 2225 East Lake Street. We have a waiver of subdivision requirements. May I have a motion to approve that waiver of subdivision requirements?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? And that motion carries. Next, may I have a motion to continue item 3 to the February 6th meeting?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And that motion carries. Item 3 is continued. And finally, may I have a motion to withdraw or accept the withdrawal of item 2? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And that motion carries. Next, we will consider the items on the consent agenda. So at this time, I will open the public hearing for the items on the consent agenda. Again, that is items 1 and 4. Is there anyone wishing to speak on either item 1 or item 4? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, and may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And that motion carries. Next, we'll move on to our items for discussion. The first item for discussion is item 5, which is at 3543 Hennepin Avenue, and staff is Mr. Hanauer.
All right. Good afternoon, Commission. The mixed-use development at Big Paws, but project site is the northeast corner of 35th and Hennepin. The applicant's proposing to remove the existing home on the site and construct a 3-story, 3-unit mixed-use building with office on the first floor. And CPED is supportive of all the applications that have been requested. The rezoning, conditional use permit for height, front yard, corner side yard setback variance, a variance to allow maneuvering the alley for non-residential use, and the site plan. For the rezoning application, the applicant's request is to go from R2B to OR1, and we find that this is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The two specific future land use elements that are applicable here is the urban neighborhood, that yellow area, which is the project site, and the dotted blue line, the Hennepin Avenue Community Corridor, which spans from 31st to 36th. The combination of these two elements are supportive of OR1 zoning based on the comp plan guidance. And just to note that the purpose of the OR1 zoning district is to allow for small-scale mixed-use development like the applicant's proposal. And also important to note, it's the project site's proximity to other comp plan features, such as the Uptown Activity Center, and it's only 3 blocks from that, 5 blocks from the Lindale Avenue Community Corridor, and also the 36th and Lindale Commercial Node. It's 5 blocks from that as well. The project site, we also see that the rezoning is in line with the existing zoning in the area. Applicants once again looking to go from R2B to OR1. There's nearby C1 zoning. I know it's a small scale, but the red outline is the project site, and it's near commercial zoning, high-density residential, and there's an abundant amount of OR1 zoning along the Hennepin Avenue community corridor just to the north of the project site. We also find that the project site and the proposed rezoning is consistent with the Uptown Small Area Plan adopted in 2008. Highlighted the guidance in that plan, but it calls for development that's 2.5 to 3 stories, which is in line with the project site, and that the recommended uses are residential, office, and retail, which the applicant is proposing. And just looking at the context of the area, we definitely realize that there's a number of duplexes and single-family homes along Hennepin Avenue in this stretch, but there's a lot of commercial properties that the applicants pointed out in their context study, and a number of mixed-use or commercial buildings along the corridor that we really feel that the project fits and is in line with that development. And also consistent with the smaller redevelopment along this corridor in the last 15 to 25 years, that being the building at 3148 Hennepin Avenue, mixed-use building with commercial on the first floor, the conversion of the fire station just nearby to 4 residential units, and the cluster development that's just to the south of the project site. Quickly looking at the conditional use permit, we are supportive of that. As noted in the application, they aren't asking for an increase in height in terms of feet. It's just going from 2.5 to 3 stories. And the applicant provided this nice context showing how the development would fit in with the surrounding buildings. And I also want to point out the project is meeting their setbacks to the north and to the east of the project site. The building setbacks are shown in blue. I just pointed out in red how close the building would be getting to the neighboring residential structures, and it's quite some distance. So we really feel that the applicant was sensitive and sympathetic to the surrounding built environment. We're supportive of the front yard and corner side yard setback variance and the maneuvering in the alley for the reasons listed in the report. We feel that there's unique circumstances given the topography in large part, and that the project will not adversely impact the area. We are excited and really feel that the building will engage with the street, provide eyes on the street, and has a nice frontage both for the building and the parking area with the landscape proposal. So I'll just also point out that once again, that the project is being sensitive. It's not maxing out the site. It's meeting their floor area ratio, their landscaping percentage, and it's well below their impervious surface allowances and lot coverage. In your addendum packet, you have 11 or 12 letters. I started at number 3. I should have been number 1, but you had 2 other letters in your packet, so I'll be more careful with that next time. But there's 3 letters of opposition, 9 letters of support, or 8 or 9 letters of support. And those letters of opposition talk about the rezoning. I feel like we outlined staff's case. And for the parking, we really don't feel that this project is going to have an adverse impact on parking. The applicant's proposing 3 parking spaces, and they tend to use those by allowing both the residential and the office uses to use those spaces. And we realize that there might be some use of on-site or on-street parking, but this is a part of the area that does have a number of developments that also have need for the on-street parking. But this project in and of itself will not have an adverse impact for on-street parking demand. So I'll be happy to answer questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions of staff? If there are none, at this time I'll open the public hearing on this item. I'd like to ask the applicant to speak first and see if you have anything to add to the presentation. And please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Randy Fielding.
And please come to the center microphone there. Thank you.
Randy Fielding, the owner and architect, and will also be a tenant occupying the office space. And thank you all for your time, including the neighbors. Aaron, thank you. I thought you did a very detailed job on that. As far as a couple of things to add, I wanted to note, I think that one of the primary concerns of the neighbors is the parking, and they have shared in a letter some photos of parking where Hennepin is very full, and also 35th Street to the west of Hennepin. Actually, that condition is often Ryan, my associate Ryan Graham. He's actually did a lot of the design work. And if we can show, let's see how we turn this guy on.
Yep,
Otherwise,
it
we'll
should
hold
be
it
on.
off and it won't get
Nope,
on.
nope, but the overhead is on.
So there we go. So this Ryan took this at 1:30 today. This is at Hennepin, and the project is here. So while occasionally that place is parked up, we also feel there are times that it actually look like it could use more density and would be good for uptown. And also I would point out that there's a bus stop right over here. So we are close enough for public transportation, and that we provided 10 bicycle parking spaces. Ryan and I are both big bikers. The new building has interior bike parking, which is good. Neither of us really like leaving our bikes outside. And the new building has a shower that's open to the offices. So while right now there are 3 people at our architectural firm who do drive, and there are 2 who walk and 1 who bike and 1 who buses, we would actually increase biking to the spot with the new building. We are sensitive to parking. We're not looking to create a, someone said in a letter they thought we'd increase parking by 10 or 15. Simply not the case. Also, my wife, Christine, and I own several apartments in Uptown, furnished, that we rent out. And most of the people who rent from us don't have cars. Some do, but we feel that with parking on these 3 spaces during the day by the offices and using them for nights and weekends with residences, and the space on Hennepin Avenue, as you can see, which is often available, that it would not be an undue pressure on the neighborhood. And regarding the zoning, I know that there's a concern that this is sort of a domino thing. If we rezone this site, I think there might be some concerns that people who have residential property, that things are going to turn. But I want to point out that it is a corner, and there's a big tradition in corners throughout urban sites around America to be special. It used to be typically the corner store with apartments above or offices above. The fact we're not applying to rezone the entire block. We're applying to rezone that corner. I think it'll be a special corner. It'll have eyes on the street. It'll be welcoming. And I really believe passionately that this will be a good thing for the neighborhood, not a burden. As far as fitting into the neighborhood, Aaron did point it out. There was a lot of thought about having the building be contemporary, which is good for Uptown, for jobs, but also that there's a gentle gable. So there's a nod to the buildings to the north, and a connection that's being close to the corner, to the commercial across the street. We're doing everything we can to be a good neighbor and to fit in. And I plan to be there, even design the 3rd floor, that I can move in there eventually with my wife. And I want this to be a building that fits in, that lasts a long time, and I'm committed to being a good neighbor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And commissioners, are there any questions of the applicant? Hearing none, we can move on to some other speakers, and I think there are a few other people. Yes, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, or I guess it's still afternoon. Todd Munson. I like your cool device. I think I have a picture I can use. So thank you for showing me the way. Todd Munson, live on just down from the picture at 34th and Hennepin. I've lived in that block for a little over 40 years in a building that was built in 1892. I think my main concern is that I feel like as I stand here, we're an endangered species, which is a single family owned, owner occupied home. In other words, for my 40 years, the block was residential. This is now a move away from that. I hope Randy moves in, assuming you approve it. But my concern is that you have to have owners who have an interest in the area. I have twice done the polling of our street to have ornamental lighting. If you know how that goes, I think you used to have 70% or so of the residents approve it. I never got to 70%. All of the absentee landlords were more worried about their rent going up. So I stand here with my biggest worry being, I think, if I've got this right, help me. You've heard of the church in Wall Street that's surrounded. Here's the slippery slope that Randy talked about that I'm concerned about woman in Seattle, for those of you who follow urban development. So that would be, I think, my primary concern is the change in the residential, the issue of is this going to be the slippery slope where we'll be surrounded in the near term, and that we won't have owner-occupied people who participate in our various care committees. Alan Ehrenholt, if you read Governing Magazine, actually I read his blog every day, the Governing blog, has said communities are based on habit, commitment, and long-term relationships. Habit, commitment, and long-term relationships, which you're more likely to get with a homeowner than you are with a rental property. And with that, I think I'm done. Questions, comments, observations?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Anyone else who would like to speak on item 5? If there's no one, I will close the public hearing. And commissioners, we have a total of 6 applications before us, starting with a rezoning. Are there any further questions of staff, or would someone like to start off the discussion with a motion? Commissioner Rockwell.
I would move to approve adopt staff recommendations and approve the applications for 3453 Hennepin Avenue.
Second. All right. We have a motion to approve items 5A through F, as well as a second. Commissioner Bender.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make a brief comment on this because I plan to support the motion, but the project is in my ward, so I just wanted to acknowledge the folks that have contacted me with concerns about the project. This was one where there were a lot of people in support of it, and the neighborhood organization, I think, had the opportunity to hear from the project team several times and give feedback that resulted in some changes along with our discussion at the committee of the whole that also helped shape this design of this project to make it, I think, fit in better even than the original proposal did. I'm excited to see this kind of small scale development in my ward. We've often hear when we see 6-story apartment projects coming through for approval that people wish there was more diversity of project types and more opportunities for smaller scale development that's in this 2.5 to 3-story range. And we very rarely see them because it's hard to make the numbers work. I think the rezoning application here on the corner lot across from commercial on a transit corridor, a wide transit corridor like Hennepin Avenue, is appropriate given the context. And I think as the project team pointed out, and I think as staff did as well, it's really just for this site and doesn't impact those properties that go up and down along the transit corridor. I just also wanted to note that this is a part of the Hennepin Avenue that's going to be reconstructed in 2018. So we're putting a significant investment here, working with Metro Transit to look for ways to improve transit access, to make the sidewalks wider and more walkable. And so I think, again, there's that good synergy between increasing opportunities to live along this street while we're making it a better place to walk and take transit. So overall, again, I think the project fits in well with the context. It is exactly the kind of project that I often hear from constituents that they want to see more of.
Thank you. Commissioner Rockwell.
I think very briefly, I also think that this is I take our comments seriously on the value of community, and I think that there can be more than just homeowners as part of the community. I think in this corridor there are a lot of good examples. I used to live at 3411 Hennepin, so on the block, and there are a lot of businesses that, like, my parents bought me shoes at Shoezoo, and I bought my kids shoes at Shoezoo, and I'm sad that business is gone. But those are part of the community and part of that corridor, and so having a variety of uses and types of tenants, I think, is part of our urban communities, particularly on a street like Hennepin.
All right, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second to approve items 5A through F. If there's no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Bender.
Aye.
Gagnon.
Aye.
Kronzer.
Aye.
Here.
Aye.
Magrino.
Aye.
Rockwell.
Aye.
Slack.
Is that me?
Slack.
Oh, sorry. Aye.
All right, and that motion carries.
Wait.
Oh, excuse me.
Sweezy. Aye. Vreeland.
Aye.
Okay, it does in fact carry. Thank you. So that concludes our discussion on item 5. Our next item for discussion is item 6, and staff is Ms. Dvorak.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is the Village Market project. I think all of you probably remember discussing this project maybe in 2014, then also in 2015. They are back before you tonight for 2 applications. One is an expansion of a non-conforming use for a covered porch that has already begun construction, and then site plan review. This is a picture, and all of these pictures in your packet. This is a picture of the covered porch that, while under construction, was brought to our attention, and the city did issue a stop work order on it, had them come in and submit permits to get to this point tonight, and so this is where we're at. So the application for the expansion of a non-conforming use is to construct or allow this porch to remain on site. There are some other applications or projects, that the applicant would like to do in conjunction with this porch. One is a covered walkway. So that porch is located in this location. And then he wants to add a covered roof over this walkway that connects the entrances on this south end to this entrance, these entrances over here. And then there is a new concrete ADA accessible ramp that runs alongside the north side of this grocery store. He'd like to put a cover over that. So all of these covers would provide continuous coverage from the elements out to the public sidewalk along 10th Avenue. The other applications, and I'll just show you this. This is on that south east corner of the site where back in 2014 and 15, there was going to be an addition. I think he has given up on that idea at this point. The other application or the other changes then that are triggering the site plan review are also adding a second entrance lane into the paid parking lot along Elliott Avenue North. Right now there's one lane. It would be widened by approximately 8 feet to allow that second. They are working with Public Works. They would need a curb cut permit from Public Works to do that. If that permit is approved, they would then also put in a second ticket dispenser to get into the lot, as there is the one there now. And then, as you may all recall, that parking lot in the corner of 10th Avenue and East 24th Street was shut down and studied as part of the travel demand management plans that were done in 2015 leading up to last year's application. That parking lot, the applicant is looking at using that for a loading area for vendors. As you probably recall, loading on the streets has been an issue, and allowing them to come into this lot. It is paved. It had been historically used as a parking lot for the Met's Bakery that had originated in this building up until 2015 when it was shut down to study for the TDMP. So it is currently paved. They're wanting to gate off this use or this area and then use it for loading, which the gates would then be monitored and operated by the applicant. So here is a close-up view of that corner showing that parking area. These 2 driveways exist. This driveway would need to be modified as that porch currently was constructed partially blocking half of the driveway, and so that whole curb cut would need to be modified. We are recommending approval of both of the applications. I want to note, and it's stated in the report that none of these changes increase the amount of usable space within the mall. So they're not increasing vendors and not increasing stores or restaurants or anything like that. All of this is outside exterior work. That porch had 2 metal staircases coming off, and to make it easier to get into those businesses, the applicant removed the staircases and started building the porch. We are recommending approval, as I said, was subject to additional conditions of approval, which are listed on page 14 of the staff report. We are recommending, and I will just walk through, that there be a walkway that connects, since the entrance to those 2 doors, this goes into a restaurant and this goes into a central hallway in the mall. And there are stairs coming into that porch there that we are recommending that a 4-foot wide walkway be constructed there. There had also been a 4-foot wide walkway here outside of the grocery